First, we're going to talk about the questions, then I'm also going to give you extra tips because I always come with the tips.
I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I probably forgot. I did not forget. I asked her and she said no.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is probably going to be the last and the most important video in my moving upward series. So today we are going to be talking about the embassy. Yeah, the embassy, the final G, the big dog, like that is where everything is decided. No matter how well you apply and no matter what school you get into, if your visa is denied, there's nothing you can do about it. So this is probably going to be the most important video, so you should listen up. I'm going to be addressing the questions that I was asked, and I think these questions can apply to people generally who want to move to Finland, not just people who are trying to come to Vamia. So I think every university student can use this format, but then you need to know how to use it where it applies to you. First, we're going to talk about the questions, then I'm also going to give you extra tips because I always come with the tips and with my book and my pen, so we mean business. So the first question is, what school? I think this should be one of the most obvious questions, and I think everyone should know the answer to this question. And you shouldn't just know like the abbreviation, you should know the full name. Someone shouldn't ask you what school and you're just like bank. You should be able to say the full name, like not just the abbreviation. I think that one was very obvious and everyone should know. And the second one is, what course are you going to study? Definitely you should know your course. So I don't even think I should speak much on that because you should know your course. Just know it's a possible question. And then also the third question we have is the duration of your studies. You need to know when your studies are starting and when they are ending. This helps them in order to know the time to give you your permit, because some people apply and they receive their permits before others. So all this depends on what time your studies begin, because they're definitely going to give you before your classes resume, and also how long to grant the permit, because if your studies is like 4 years, definitely they're going to give you a 4-year permit. So you should know the exact start date and the ending date of your course. So the next question is, what town is your school located in? And trust me, you need to learn how to pronounce it, because I know cities here in Finland can have very strange names, and try to use Google Translate, so when you're saying it, don't read finish things with an English accent. You should sound like you know where you're going to, don't say it like you're guessing. You should know what city your school is located in. So I don't need to stress much on this. On to the next. Another important question I was asked was, how much is your bank statement? So you should know the amount of money that is required for you to study here. In most cases, it's just about a year's worth of funds that is needed, so you don't get frustrated when you come here looking for a job. They need to be sure that you're able to sustain your stay here, so maybe you don't get into illegal activities and stuff. So you need to find out how much is needed. Definitely you should already know by now. In my time it was about 7,000 something. Now I know it's been pumped up to about 9,000. So you should know the exact figures. You should. I hope so. The next question I was asked was, do I have a sponsor? So in most cases, most students do have a sponsor. So yeah, you respond, you have a sponsor, and you should also know your sponsor's source of income and how much their bank statement is. It doesn't mean you should go and be like, oh, in the month of September he had this amount. No, you just need to know like the end product, like how much in total is in his account or her account. I don't know why I said he, like sponsors are always meant, of course, in her account. And you should also know how much is in your account. And probably it's up to what they are asking for. And as you can see, it took your complaint about not hearing my voice clearly. I'm using a mic, so this time if you cannot hear, then I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's not me, it's you. And where was I? So another question they asked was, do you have accommodation? So definitely you need to, even if you don't have accommodation, probably if you have family, you can say you're living with family. If you don't have accommodation, don't just say you don't have accommodation. Say you've already searched and you know where to find it when the time comes. Maybe you probably mention some sites depending on what city you're in. But you can always tell me what city you're going to in the comment section and I can send you like the link to a site that takes care of student housing for that city. Because here in Finland, every city has its own student housing company here. So you can just comment your city and I'm going to send you the link to the student housing company. All those questions cover schools and sponsors. The next step is Finland as a whole. So why Finland? You need to speak about the education because I know Finland is like one of the top three countries with like the best education system in Europe or in the world, I think. You do your research. Definitely, you're coming here for education, so it's very vital that you mention that. Then, amongst other reasons, why did you choose Finland? Just make sure education is one of. Another question I was asked was why? What do you know about the Finnish culture? So definitely, every country has its culture, and for Finland, I know they are popular for drinking coffee. They drink the most amount of coffee in the world and they are known for having more saunas than cars. Yeah, there are more saunas in Finland than cars. And yeah, you can also mention like the Finnish winter and like maybe some things they do in the winter. Like you can do your research on that. But I think just the sauna and coffee, like that's enough to cover the cultural stuff. And then um they also asked me, do you have family in Finland? I have family in Finland, so I said I do have family in Finland. If you have friends in Finland, you can say you have friends in Finland. If you don't have family in Finland, just say you don't have family in Finland. Then they asked me a very tricky question because you always expect them to ask, okay, are you going to return after your studies? And plot twist, that is what they actually want. Definitely. They need you to return back to your country after your studies. But this time they asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like that's so tricky. So you need to tell them where you see yourself in 5 years. It's not me that's going to tell you where you see yourself in 5 years. Then sometimes they also ask you like, maybe you should explain the process, like what were the required documents for you like to get to this point. So you definitely need to be very involved in the whole process of coming here because there are certain things that they just ask you just to know if maybe you're the one doing everything. So you definitely need to know about your documents and stuff. Then now to the interesting part of the video because I like talking about tips because I think tips can get you so far. Tips help tell you things that no one else will tell you because right now you know the questions, but then there are little tips that could enhance your chances, and we're all about enhancing chances here. So the first tip is go to VFS early. That's if you're going to the Nigerian embassy, definitely you have to go through VFS first. And I was at VFS at 6 a.m. VFS opens at 8, but mind you, there are people, it's like people sleep there, I don't know, because it's first come, first serve. So you need to go there early. And especially if you're coming from Cameroon like me, the more time you spend in Nigeria, the more money you spend on hotels and stuff. And especially if you're going for studies, most times if you go to VFS early and they finish your documents early, you might go to the embassy that same day. So try as much as possible to go to VFS very, very early. I recommend 6 a.m. because when you go there, you form a line, and by the time the VFS is open at 8 a.m., that line is already there. So you snooze, you lose your. The second tip is separate your documents from your sponsor's documents because there are going to be times where you need to rearrange your document. Like when you get into VFS, they give you a list on how to arrange your documents. So sometimes you might have to reach out for your sponsor's documents and yours. So you should If you mix everything in one file, it's going to end up being a mess. So have a file for your sponsors documents, have a file for your own documents, so you can easily, you know, take them out without making a mess. Then personally, I'm a Cameroonian, so I'm advising my fellow Cameroonians, pay the query fees unless you're a rich bobo. When you are paying your visa fee, they always ask for like an extra optional query fees that actually many people don't really understand. Me personally, at that time I didn't understand what it meant, but I'm just happy I paid because when your permit is out, you don't have to go back to Nigeria to get it. So they, with that query fee, they just get your location or your information and they send it to you. So you don't have to travel twice. Unless you like traveling, like who am I to stop you, baby? Then the third is it even the third? The next tip is you should look presentable. I know this sounds like a given, like okay, of course I'm going to look presentable, but what I saw there, what I saw when I went there, I was like, are we here for different things? People were wearing flip flops. People look like they just woke up, like they just woke up from a gutter and went there. Not to like hate on anybody's looks, but at least look clean. You understand? You cannot be going to an embassy and you're looking like I don't know. You're just looking like bread, looking like come on. Obviously, you've gotten the school, and because if you are at the embassy means you've definitely gotten a school and you've gotten accepted somewhere. So this is literally the final stage. Why don't you just look presentable just for one day? How can you be wearing slippers to an official office? Like you look presentable, keep neat hair. And I always talk about looks because if I am the visa officer and I'm seeing you looking all rough, it's like you want to go to my country to spoil it for me. Yes. So just try to look presentable, try to look responsible. Yes, those, of course, you'd say, yeah, there are people who don't look responsible and they still got it, but do you really want to risk it? In my advice is you should look presentable. It's not just any other day, it's your day, you understand. It's the day you've been working for, compiling the documents and all of that. I know it's very stressful because I've been there. So you wouldn't want to jeopardize all of that just because you didn't want to cover up and your legs were paining, so you didn't want to wear shoes.
My mic stopped working, so I'm recording this outro without a mic, and there's definitely going to be a lot of noise, but the tips are more important, and I just hope that you can still hear me amidst all the noise. So as I was saying, when you go to VFS, the only thing that you have to live with is your appointment letter. And this letter consists of the time your appointment is scheduled. So you shouldn't leave. So you need to wait with your appointment letter to the embassy. And I'm telling you, this is the only document you need to leave with because little story time. While I was at VFS, the lady who was attending to me asked me to give my documents, and I remember asking her, just my documents or plus my sponsor's document? She said, just mine, that it's not yet time for me to give my sponsor's documents. So I went around, did the test because there's a lot of things you do at the VFS. Then later on, when it was almost time to leave, I asked my friends, like, did they collect your sponsor's document? And they told me, yeah, they collected. And I showed them, and they were like, what are you still doing with yours? You have to give everything. Then I went back to the counter to the lady and was like, you didn't collect my sponsor's documents. And that time her supervisor was there. She started acting like, no, you were supposed to give me everything. Why didn't you? So she turned it on me. But in that kind of situation, you always just have to take the L. And I was just like, oh, I'm sorry, I probably forgot. I did not forget. I asked her and she said no. So now she was like, oh, now I have to look for your file and all of that. I was just quiet. So she went under the park and she got out my file. She took my sponsor's documents and added to it. But in my mind, I was just thinking, what if I didn't ask my friends? Because those files are being sent to Finland, they're being shipped. So what if I didn't ask my friends? So make sure when you're leaving VFS, you should have given every document, your sponsor's document. There's nothing that should be left out. The only document you should get out of there is your appointments receipt or something. that shows the time you're going to the embassy. And when you go to the embassy, you need to show that document. So please don't forget it, because that's the only way they are going to know that you have really been booked for an appointment. And I also forgot to mention, at the embassy, you write. You don't speak to anybody. The only time you speak to someone is at VFS, and they ask you just random questions. It's not like a proper interview. So when you go to the embassy, especially when you're going through studies, I know when you're taking another means, you speak to a visa officer. Sorry, but when you're going through studies, you just write and make sure your handwriting is clear, because nobody's going to call you to ask if that was an F1H. So make sure you write clearly, make sure you maintain a proper pace, because I was extremely slow and they had to tell me like, you should be done by now. I had no idea there was like a time limit. So make sure you write a bit fast. No phones are allowed. When you get into the embassy, they give you a locker to keep in every other thing that you're holding, like your phone, anything. So you're entering there with nothing, and don't try to hide anything, because this is not like your normal exams back home. You don't need to cheat. You just need to know what you're writing, and if you study the questions that I mentioned earlier, then I guess you're good. But definitely still do more research if I were you. So yeah, I think that's all you need to know. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe. Sorry, my mood is a bit down because I just recorded a lot of things and I had to re-record them because my mic was not functioning. Yay. So thank you for watching this video, and I always put out videos like this because these are things I wish I would have watched when I started my process, because it would have made it so much easier and it would have limited the amount of mistakes that I made, because I did make a lot of mistakes. So I'm here to make sure you don't make mistakes, and see you, and I'm rooting for you. Bye.